Hello there, Radiant Souls. I'm Matt Lengauer, the founder of Radiant Souls. I'm a certified life coach, energy healing mentor, and Reiki master, and I'm here today to talk about sowing seeds of happiness. So, it is finally spring here in the Midwest after a bit of a struggle through the last few months with our weather, but May always makes me think of the May crowning every year as a child. Just the temperature and the smell of the air and just the feeling on your skin. You know how it can like trigger some memories from childhood of being in very specific places or situations the same time of year. So even for those who didn't grow up Catholic, just this is like the month of Mother Mary, and it's usually celebrated by kids like crowning her with flowers. So, are we going to talk about horticulture today? Not exactly, but there is, of course, an analogy here with my little creative mind. Um, I've recently spoken to a few people who have been talking about some important needs in their relationships that are not being fulfilled. And they seem like sort of mundane but important everyday things, but they're so triggering that there's deeper meaning here. It requires a little kind of meditation to get to the root of it in our garden. So some of this was due to partners not fulfilling requests that were made, and some were due to not wanting to make the requests, not wanting to bother people. So I've also recently watched the Real Housewives of Beverly Hills reunion. Yes, yes, I do that. And in this particular episode, Erica tells Amanda, who consistently, according to the footage we see, brags about her earnings in comparison to her husband. Kind of what seems emasculating to the rest of them or minimizes his income to the rest of them. So even though she says he doesn't care about that and that doesn't bother him, Erica's point was that those are still seeds that she's planting that could blossom into anger later in the marriage when things are not going well. And I think that's such a good point to make. So keep that in mind as I kind of go through some of these examples. It really got me thinking like everything we do or don't do is a seed that we plant, sure. But I like to think recently more about the things we don't do or the indecisions we have. In things that will happen that we did not intend, we thought, well, doing nothing, then nothing will change. It's fine. I can handle the status quo. But a lot of times that festers and turns into something completely different. So it brought me to a new meditation question. In which garden am I planting this seed with this decision or indecision that I'm making? So let's go through those two examples. So the first example was let's start with a partner who was informed of requests but consistently was not fulfilling them. Let's call this person Patrick. So Patrick may be a great partner in a lot of ways, and has much to contribute to the relationship. However, noticing when something in the house isn't quite so tidy is not one of his greatest skills. So after years of effort, he is still not understanding that dirty dishes in the sink need cleaned by a human. There are clothes on the floor that aren't going to pick themselves up. The trash is overflowing and doesn't magically disappear outside of the house one day. So all these things are not going to take care of themselves and need human intervention to do something. His husband, who we'll call James, continues to plant and water the seed that his partner is a fully functioning adult and can do this stuff. However, Patrick is not like James. Patrick and James are not the same person. They don't share a brain. They cannot read each other's minds and have very different ways of looking at things. So I would say James, by expecting each time for Patrick to behave differently, is just planting a seed in the garden of resentment. James gets angrier every time, and eventually there is a full on fight over dishes. They're just dishes. Dishes. They're just things. So what is the real problem? Does Patrick just suck as an adult? Or is it that James keeps expecting Patrick to be a different person after all these years? So, James, all my Jameses out there, can you be happy and have a partner who doesn't always notice these things as much as you do? Those are only questions that you all can answer. My other example. Now let's look at Miriam and Zach. Miriam is in the process of finishing an important book, fulfilling a dream, and has to make some publishing deadlines very soon. Zach has been missing that quality time they used to have in the evenings, and it's been getting him kind of down because Zach's love language is physical touch. And he loves spending those evenings kind of cuddled up on the couch and just hanging out and watching TV and just talking. Recently, she's had to spend a lot of late nights typing away at her computer. Zach smiles at her and refreshes her drink and gives her the space that she needs. He makes a choice not to tell her he misses her because he doesn't want to bother her or stress her out or pressure her into having to work on something in the relationship when she's working on this important project, which he knows will eventually, be done. He wants to be that source of love and that cheerleader for this big career move of hers. On the surface, we might say, wow, Zach is such a great partner, sacrificing his needs for Miriam and her busy time to get that book published. I'm sure she will thank him and repay him at some point. But will this decision also plant a seed in the garden of resentment? Like Erica said, this could explode later when things aren't going well in the relationship. An argument a few months later, a moment when Zach does ask for something, and Miriam says, sorry, no, I can't. I have to get this done. I have to write 2 more chapters tonight. Should Zach approach Miriam and say, hey, I've been missing you. Any chance we can get an hour tonight of just being together? Only they can answer these questions. So, our expectations and assumptions that we make up in our heads are occurring without all the facts. We are planting seeds in the dark because we don't have the full story. Maybe Patrick grew up never having to do those things around the house, but does so much more and doesn't think it's a big deal or that it's hurting James so much. Maybe Miriam would absolutely take tonight to spend time with Zach, but she just got so wrapped up in the writing and thought maybe another day because Zach hasn't said anything. He seems perfectly happy. There's always way more to the story. Our thoughts and emotions about anything are not the real story. They're automatic responses to external stimuli through this algorithm of our upbringing and conditioning. Also, our thoughts and emotions tend to fill in gaps with fake information or jumping to conclusions that there's no evidence for. That's just human. But our hearts crave authentic connections. Our brains will sometimes stop us. So, what would happen if we instead planted seeds in the garden of loving authenticity, honesty from a place of peace and love? James might be able to be okay with Patrick only taking care of these, tidying up chores like 10% of the time, while he handles other tasks around the house like home repair and landscaping 100% of the time. Zach might be able to ask for some quality time and Miriam can spare an hour. By the way, this is not limited to romantic relationships, of course. This is any type of interpersonal relationship with other family members, with coworkers, bosses, friends, baristas, restaurant servers, really anything where you have a need that needs met. So the next time we feel a need arising or anger boiling up, like frustration or anxiety, that's usually my trigger that something's going on. What is this teaching me? So we can pause and check in with ourselves and ask ourselves a few questions. So I've got 4 questions here. Of course, there are more, but these are the 4 that came to me in this meditation. Can I be happy without this? The answer is always going to be yes, but let me walk you through it a little bit. It's not that you need to sacrifice your needs. That's a totally different feeling. But sometimes we automatically assign this as a condition of our happiness. I can't be happy in this relationship unless someone else does the dishes from time to time. I can't be happy in this relationship unless I get some personal one-on-one time with this person every night or a majority of the nights of the week. Those are needs, those are valid needs, but can you still be happy when those needs are not getting met? I think that we can be like in a place of balance there where we can say, I'm still a happy person, even if he didn't clean the dishes. Me, I'm happy. I'm a happy person. I'm also certainly not suggesting that you sacrifice your boundaries. However, your happiness is only conditioned on your choice to be happy. So, for an extreme example, I'm a happy person even though he cheated. I can't be with him now because that crosses a boundary that I don't allow to be crossed, but I'm still a happy person. This is why people can move on after being cheated because what they did was respected their own boundary and said, you gotta go. So this was a kind of an amazing lesson that I learned from reading the book The Untethered Soul: The Journey Beyond Yourself. That happiness we automatically make conditional for ourselves, and that's not true. It's absolutely not true. So I just want you to learn the lesson that you can always be happy if you choose to. So take this out of the equation. And this is not me just like spiritually bypassing. That takes work. That takes a lot of discipline and work and kind of self-correcting some of those automatic beliefs that your happiness, my happiness, is conditioned on X, Y, and Z. Second question. How do I request what I want in a loving and peaceful way? It's in the delivery. This is a tough one for me, or has been anyway in the past, um, because for people like me, fiery Aries sun and, Cancer moon, Cancer rising, very emotional, very quick. I don't want to say short-tempered, but sometimes that's true. Um, it's best to like take a breath and remember that you love this person. So sometimes you get so wrapped up in like the effing dishes, but this is your loving partner. This is your loving partner. Protect the relationship first. The dishes are secondary, tertiary, or way down the line. Third question. Am I open to having my request denied or delayed? Yes. You need to be prepared for any answer because that is a whole other person with a whole other experience that's going to respond to that request. It's just more information. It says nothing about who you are. It says nothing about your value. It says nothing about how much that person loves you or how important you are in their life. It's just information that will lead you to the next decision or the next conversation piece, right? Fourth question. What does not having this need fulfilled actually mean to me? Now, this is going to be a lot deeper, a lot more time spent reflecting. Where is the meaning coming from when the need is not fulfilled? Why are you so mad when the dishes aren't cleaned? What does that mean? And is it true? Is it absolutely true beyond any doubt that that underlying belief is what is the absolute truth, because it's usually not. There's usually some wound that's getting poked if we are defensive when a need is not met. So if you dig deep enough, like, oh, well, when I grew up, and I didn't do the dishes, my parents would yell at me and ignore me and take things away from me. And I interpreted that as not being lovable because I didn't do the chores. That's not my experience. I'm just throwing it out there. Um, so it could be something like that. So there's probably some core wound underneath, like, I'm not lovable, I'm not worthy. So taking some time and reflecting, if you get that understanding, you might start approaching the situation a lot differently, or it might kind of lose its charge. Try it out. So, you know what I'm going to say next? Coaching is such a great way to explore those parts of yourself getting triggered by unmet needs or the feeling of not feeling worthy to make requests in the first place. You already have all the answers within you. 100% believe that everyone is capable of growing and healing. It's really just what parts do you need help with that are a little tough. And a coach like me can help you find all that core wound crap underneath those dramatic thoughts and emotions that we have. Because when you're trying to figure it out on your own, sometimes you get stuck up here. The mind is a beautiful thing, but also a very creative thing. And sometimes that creativity gets in the way because it's creating negative spiral. Totally human, totally normal. There's nothing wrong with you. It's what our brains do. It's wired to protect us. And thank you, brain. But now we're going to work with our hearts in our heart space. So if you are interested, you could take a look at some of my offerings on my website, weareradiantsouls.com. Until then, keep on shining. Love you.